Hey guys, it's Mr. C in the place to be, Irwin Academy, and it's time for another music lesson. Remember, these videos are more meant for my intermediate and advanced students. Doesn't mean that my beginning students can't watch them either. There just might be a lot of stuff that you don't understand what we're talking about. If you're a beginner and you're here checking out the video, give me a thumbs up to help me feel special, and hope you can get something out of it. Okay, if you're an intermediate or advanced player and you're bored, sorry, there are some parts of music that will be boring, but you gotta know this because it'll help you become an even better musician, okay? Right behind me today, we're gonna be talking about arpeggios, okay? When you arpeggiate something, you're playing one note at a time, okay? It's like as if you were a guitar player and you're strumming a chord, and then you decided to pick each string, you're arpeggiating that chord, okay? Right here, I wrote the G major scale, also known as a G major scale, concert B flat major for universal language, okay? This is everyone's G scale, okay? This is a flute's G scale. A G scale is a G scale. Why do I call it a G scale? Because it starts on a G, okay? Now, if a flute, and you know, we already said this, flute, clarinet, and a saxophone player, and a French horn player, why not? If they all decide to play this exact scale with those exact notes, if everybody played their G scale, it'll all sound completely different, okay? What you all want to do if you all want to play together is you want to play concert pitch, which is universal. It goes with every instrument no matter what key, but everyone's concert pitch is going to be different. This is a concert B flat major scale, okay? Flutes, we went over this on another video. I'm not done. Okay, anyways, so I also wrote from yesterday's video, we got Every Good Boy Does Fine and Face and all that stuff. I added the G on the top of Face because there is a G note in this scale. We're only ascending the scale, we're not descending. It means I didn't write the whole scale, okay? I only wrote from the tonic note or the root note or the first note, the same thing, all the way up to the octave, the eighth note of the scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm getting better at doing this, moving backwards and stuff like that. Okay, it's the eighth note. It's a G, and there's a G. There are 7 different notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, I'll just say the notes: G, A, B, C, D, E, and F. Actually, that should be F sharp. But I wrote a sharp here, but I didn't write a sharp here. There you go. It's F sharp because we are in the key of G. And I wrote that in the wrong spot. I should use the eraser. Now it's all ugly. There we go. Ugly sharp sign. I no longer need that. Why did I put that there? Because now that means anything that I write on this line is going to be F sharp. Okay. Can I draw a treble clef sign? I can draw a treble sign. I can draw a treble clef sign. Sorry about that. I needed my book. You saw a bass clef sign the other day, and now I'm going to make the world's worst looking treble clef sign. Really? Ready? Because I cannot draw anything. Can you even see the spot? Yeah, you can. All right. So we got this little thingy right there. And we're going to come there. Actually, that's not too bad. I'm very impressed. Treble clef sign. You heard me say last time that the bass clef also has another name. It's called the F clef, and that means every line on the bass clef. I'll put it up here just to review because this is kind of important. Bass clef is easy to write. Bam. Bass clef. Everything right here is an F. F clef. Bass clef. Same thing. For the treble clef, also known as G clef. It's because it's a G clef. Most G clef of them all. That means everything on this note, everything on that line where that little circle is a G, okay? And same thing with the bass clef. with that little circle thingy and more of the dots. That's the easiest way to identify it. Everything on that line is going to be an F. Something to remember. There is an alto clef, there is a tenor clef, and usually violins and orchestra people are going to see that more. And there also, and might even be choir, I'm not sure about choir, but there's also a drum clef, and I'll show you the symbol for drum clef next time. All right, so back to what I was talking before, because you know that I can easily get sidetracked. All right, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and G. Okay, we have our key signature, we have our clef sign. I know we're playing in treble clef because there's a treble clef there. So that means me as a treble clef player, I can read this no problem. Doesn't matter if I'm flute, trumpet, clarinet, sax, French horn, tuba. Tuba does matter. Baritone horn, they read treble clef. Okay, anything treble clef, I can read this and I know these notes. Okay, this is my comfort zone right here. If it was bass clef, that would change everything. We're not doing bass clef right now. Although bass clef, you can actually easily follow along. These concepts do apply to you, okay? But they're just not the same notes. This would be your B flat, and then your C and your D. You get the point, okay? All right, here we go. Right down here, in parentheses, I wrote G major triad. Whenever you have three notes that make a chord, it's called a triad. Tri meaning three, okay? So, some chords have more than three notes. Didn't say that before. And I know I thought it in my head at the time. I just didn't say it. Just forgot. So sorry. All right. Arpeggio. When you want to do an arpeggio, this is actually the one, if you still have your red book, the Standard of Excellence book that I gave you guys last year, this is the one that I learned when I was in 4th grade on my own. I wanted something different to practice. I didn't like practicing. I worked on the scale, and this was right after the scale. It's called an arpeggio, okay? In this arpeggio, you don't have every note. You're taking, you're taking certain notes in a chord, and you're playing them one at a time. Like I said, if we were a guitar player and we were strumming an open chord, an open G, these would be the notes most of the time involved in the chord, okay? So we're picking apart the notes of the scale. If you notice, right here in the beginning, we don't have an A and we don't have an E in this at all, okay? We do have an F sharp. And I'll keep that F sharp there because I don't have the key signature. Anyways, when you play this, it's almost like you're picking apart the chord, kind of like how we talked about the other day when we were talking about reading chords. All right, this is your root, your tonic, your first note. My back hurts. I feel like I need to like crack my back or something. I'm sorry. Okay, you have the root, you have the third, and you have the fifth. How do I know that? Well, check this out. I have the full ascending scale right here. So here's my 1, 2, erase this, 3. I'm gonna erase all these extra lines that I made too long. 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm not putting 8 because that is not a different note. Okay, that's the same as the beginning note, just a higher pitch. Okay, we're not going to get into 8s and 9s and stuff like that. Don't worry about that. Okay, so this is how I know that I have the root, the third, and the fifth right here. The root, 1, or root, or tonic, same thing. Okay, 2, 3. 3 is a B. How do I know it's a B? B. There's my B. And the D, fifth, D. How do I know it's a D? Bam, there you go. Root, third, and the fifth. Okay, that chord. Want to hear it on piano, my piano people? I'm going to be playing the concert B flat. I'm not going to play G, B, and D on piano. You can, okay? It'll sound similar. The notes aren't the same, okay? So if you want to match what my saxophone is playing, you want to play B flat, D, F, D, B flat. Man, that's really difficult to do at the same time. Anyways. Okay, if we play G, B, and D on the piano. On the saxophone, I'm playing E, G sharp, B, G sharp, E. Okay, just transposition stuff. Don't get all thrown off, okay? Just know that while you're practicing this on your own, play these notes. Don't worry about transposing. Don't worry about, oh, I'm a flute and it says a G and he's playing saxophone, so I should play B flat. No, just play your G. It's fine, okay? No problem. All right. That's good, yeah. Okay, and man, saxophone players, we always leave our neck straps on, don't we? Okay. Now, I have more than those triad notes right there, those tritones. I have more than that. I still have, what, 6 other notes right here? Okay. I have a G, which is, you know, the octave. Okay. Octave is whatever note you start on, the same note, but a higher pitch. Okay. This right here, called an octave. Sometimes you might hear some fancy people call it register, higher register. Means the same thing. When I was first learning music in 4th grade and I was told to play a higher note, they'd say play the higher register. Okay? Then like a couple years later, everybody was saying octave, 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 and I never heard the word register again. You may. I'm probably not going to use it. Okay, because now I'm so used to hearing the word octave and even using the word octave. But it is possible you may hear, depending on what you do with music, okay, register. Just to throw that out there. Everybody's different. Every music teacher is different. Okay, they've all been taught a different way, and they might have even gone through music as kids a completely different way than how they were taught. So just be prepared for anything, okay? All right, so we have the higher octave. Then we have the F sharp, okay, which is the 7th step of the scale. How do I know? Bam, right there. I'm gonna put it in blue just so you know it's an F sharp. And is it the smallest, terriblest F sharp ever? I just keep getting my board dirty, that's all. F sharp, right there, okay? What comes next? We have a D, D as in dog, which is the 5th step again. So that's cool. Then we have a C, which is the 4th step of the scale, an A, which is the 2nd step, and then we're back to the tonic note. We're back to the 1st step, we're back to the root note. So if I wanted to play this, I'll do it on the piano, I got it right here, okay? G, B, D, high G, F sharp, D, C, A, G. Okay, and I'll play it on the saxophone. Oh, if I can pick it up. All right. Here you go. Move out of the way so you can see it. Okay. Okay, Mr. C, I'm a B flat instrument, and a lot of these notes are really, really high, and I can't play them. Okay, no problem. I'm gonna put the C scale right here for you too. But you gotta understand, if you can't play your high C on your clarinet or your trumpet, well, that's something that you have to work on, okay? If you're having problems hitting the high notes on clarinet, like I told you before, work it out, okay? Don't fight it, relax. That's an example of me fighting the note. And it's all right here. Like, I'm doing that on purpose. If you relax and just let the note come out high, this is your high G, okay? It's just like saxophone fingering. You have both thumbs, 1, 2, 3, and it sounds just like that. Okay? If I had time and I wasn't embarrassed to make a mistake on clarinet, I would totally play this part for you, but sorry, no. Okay. C scale for my B flat instruments is going to be just like this, okay? You got your 1, which is your C. You have your 3, E, and then your G. Then you have your C. Then you have a B. Then you have the 5th step again, which is a G. Yep, it's a G. Then you have the 4th step, which is an F. And then you have the 2nd step, which is a D. And then your low C. So, play it on the piano. There you go. Okay, for my clarinets and trumpets. If you're still struggling with the high notes, well, you got a couple high notes right here. You have a high C and you have a high B. Trumpets probably have it a little bit easier than clarinets. Clarinets, honestly, if you can't hit high notes yet, my best advice for you is stop being scared and just let it happen. Let the note come out. Don't fight it. It's once you get that note out, you'll be like, oh, this is easy. Like, just don't have fear, clarinets. Like, clarinets have a crazy range. You really do. And you're just getting to the beginning of it. So don't fight the high notes, clarinets. Don't fear the high notes, clarinets. Trumpets, I'm not saying it's easier for you because trumpets, you're all embouchure. You only got 3 valves. And the best way, where is my trumpet? I don't have my trumpet right now. Best way to work out those high notes is push the 1st valve down. Play a low B flat. Bah. And then play every note that you can play without killing yourself all the way up just by changing your embouchure. I guess I better show you right now. Let me grab my trumpet. All right. So, here's what I mean. Sorry, it's gonna take me a good 20 minutes to set up my trumpet. Okay, here's what I mean. 1st finger, push it down. Low B flat is like this. It sounds weird. Okay, it's a low note. You might not be used to it, but do that, okay? This is what you want to do. Okay, just practice going up and down without changing your fingering. You can go to low A. So yeah, I probably shouldn't have gone that high because I had to force that note out and I felt it in my throat. It's like, ugh. You don't want to do that. You want to eventually be able to hit these higher notes comfortably, okay? Do your C. There's a C. See, can't do it. Okay, that's it. The high note that I hit the 2nd time was a high E. Okay, you have C, and then G, and then high C, and then high E. All right, just so you know the notes you're playing. If you're doing the low B flat, you have B flat, you have F, you have B flat, then you have D as in dog. A, you have A, E, A, and what is this high note? I guess it's like probably a wrong or alternate fingering for a high E, okay? And just practice that. Do not be scared of the high notes. You need to be able to do these high notes, okay? You got to. It's like I said the other day, when people are doing crazy guitar solos and rocking out on stage or whatever, people enjoy hearing the high notes a lot more than they hear the low notes. Anybody that solos goes for that higher range, the higher register, the higher octaves, okay? So, you have your arpeggio right here. Now, clarinets and trumpets, you can hit your high notes, rock this scale. rock this scale, okay? Especially a trumpet player that can hit a high G. Woo! Raise the roof, okay? Clarinets, you have it a little bit easier. This high G is the one that I just played for you. The one that I showed you, it was the exact same fingering for sax, both thumbs, 1, 2, 3. That's your high G, okay? Trumpet's got it harder compared to you with these extremely higher octaves. Sorry, that's the truth, okay? All right, trumpets, that G, I'm telling you. You can come back to school whenever we are coming back to school and we're doing music and you go, hey, Mr. C, I can play a high G. I'm gonna think that you're talking about, you know, C, G, this one. Why can't I not play it? That G. I'm gonna think you're talking about that G. If you could pull off, let's see if I can do it. Ready? My face is probably gonna get really red, just so you know. That one. I used to be able to almost hit that note without killing myself, but that's what happens when you don't practice. I need to practice trumpet. Anyways, work on these arpeggios. Why, Mr. C? Why should I work on arpeggios? What's the whole point? Well, here's the cool thing. If you're ever given an opportunity to play solo, you don't know what to play, arpeggios are a good safety net, okay? I remember in college doing a couple solos in class, and I'm like, sometimes you get put on the spot. Hey, okay, so-and-so's not here. Can you play the solo? Okay. You don't want to say no. Why not? Because you know you secretly want to do it. You're just scared. Been through experience, okay? Arpeggios, why not? Because it sounds cool, first of all. It sounds like you're picking apart a chord, which is even better. And finally, it doesn't sound like a scale. If somebody says, okay, play me a solo, here comes your solo, and you're in G major, okay? You're in the key of G for your instrument, or whatever, okay? And you just play the scale. It's like, that wasn't a solo. Why are you practicing your scales? Everybody's gonna know it's a scale. Everybody's gonna know it's a scale if you play a scale. Arpeggios are not as recognizable, okay? It's a good safety net. It's a good thing to fall back on. If you don't know what to play for a solo, if you're lost, come do an arpeggio, okay? And a good secret to hiding what you're doing is to change the rhythms. You know that we have quarter notes right here, right? One beat each, right? Quarter notes. If we swung these notes and turn this into a dotted quarter note, and then an eighth note, and another dotted quarter note, and an eighth note, and another dotted quarter note, and an eighth note, and another dotted quarter note, and an eighth note, and then that one's fine. This is how you swing in jazz, okay? So now, instead of this going, when you add a dot to a note, and this is important, okay, here's a really confusing part, okay? Here's the definition of a dotted quarter note. A dotted quarter note, when you add a dot to a quarter note, you add half of its value to itself. When you add a dot to any note, you add half of its value to itself. What? Okay, so if we added a dot to a half note, okay? I'm gonna do it right here so you can see. Okay, here we got a half note right here, okay? If we added a dot to that, so it'd look like this, okay? You add half of its value to yourself, okay? This is 2 beats. Half note is 2 beats. So what's half of 2? 1. So this becomes 1. It's a math problem. 2 plus 1 is 3. So if you add a dot to a half note, a dotted half note is going to equal 3 counts. Okay? Now here's where it gets a little bit confusing. If we do the same thing, but we add a dot to a quarter note, Now this is a quarter note. Okay. This gets one beat. Quarter notes get one beat. So what's half of one? A half plus a half equals a whole. Half an apple plus another half of an apple makes one apple. So half of one is a half. So a quarter note plus a dot equals 1.5. A dotted quarter note, 1.5 counts. Okay, so putting your hand down and back up is one count. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1.5. 1. Half. Okay. Now, you're probably like, okay. Here's the secret. Just hold the quarter note a tiny bit longer. Not for 2 counts, just a tiny bit longer. That's it. Instead of ba, 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 ba. It'll make sense once you actually get to do it. Okay? So, we're going to swing these arpeggios. It's going to sound like this. And now we got 8 notes. 8 notes are actually half a beat. I know, you're like, oh, play already, okay? So you got 1.5 and then a half. 1.5 and then a half. Okay, so it's gonna sound like this. It's gonna sound like do-ba, 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 do-ba. Let the little flam there at the end. That's it. Da 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 da. That's it. There you go. Okay? Dotted notes. I didn't plan on talking about that now with arpeggios, but you can play these scales differently. Okay? Scales, arpeggios. It's a broken down scale. Just think of it that way. Good way to hide a solo. Okay? If you're lost or you don't know what to play. Sorry, speaker's on. All I was doing right there is just mixing up the arpeggio. I played it straight through, and then I started playing some of these notes in a different order. How would I ever know that you don't know what to play for a solo? So check out these arpeggios. All right? And if you're watching this video now and you have signed up for our Google class, that's great. There's a link on our Mr. C's online music class to our music webpage. Right on the top right of the screen, you have choices to click home, which takes you to the page you're on. Then instructional videos, which is where all these videos are found. And it's probably how you found this, unless you're on YouTube. And finally, sheet music. Okay? You can find scales on that page. You can even find arpeggios if they're not there. I'm going to double check that actually next. Before we end this session, I want to explain something to you. The scales you will find under, it's called band warm-ups, and scales, it says. It's like the first one, I believe. You have this scary looking thing right here, okay? This is the scale forms that we had to use in junior high. My teacher, Mr. Price, made sure that we all used this. We hated this book, but man, this book is so useful. Like, can't deny it, it's so useful. Okay, anyways, right here on the side, make sure if you're a bass instrument like trombone, baritone bass clef, tuba, that type of thing, you're getting the bass clef ones. For the rest of you, you want treble clef ones. Treble clef, okay? So this is the treble clef one. Right here on the side, this is the key of your instrument. What key is your instrument? Okay? B flat, it says B flat 1. Okay? If you're a B flat instrument, that means you're a tenor sax, clarinet, trumpet, baritone horn. C, if you're C, that means you're guitar, piano, ukulele. You can do bass guitar depending on what music you're reading. Bass guitar should be bass clef though. And flute. Okay? If you are E flat, you are saxophone and alto saxophone. Oh, that's D flat. I'm sorry. D flat. I need to find out what type of instruments are in D flat. E flat, right there. Saxophone, alto clarinet, baritone saxophone. And F for French horn. Okay? Now, if you want to look at Oh, and the arpeggios. Check it out. Arpeggios are right there. Okay, there's our arpeggio. Right at the end of the scale. You all want to look for the key of your instrument and number 1. Okay? Saxophones and trumpets, you know, B-flat instruments and E-flat instruments are going to be on page 1 or page 8. At the top it says page 8. But on the our website it says page 1. Flutes, you're going to be at the bottom of the second page, the second to the last group of scales. Okay? For now, just look at the major scale, okay, and your instrument, C1 major, right there. Flutes, you should know all these notes. And yes, there are notes, there are double notes. It just depends on who you are and what you're playing. Flutes are probably going to look at the higher end, okay? The other page, B flat 1. Unless I have a trumpet player that can play the high notes, none of my trumpets are going to play that. You're going to play this because it's easier. Clarinets too. Saxophones, there's your G. Saxophone cannot hit a G that low, okay? Not an alto saxophone. You need more keys, okay? You're going to be looking at this one. Look at the note that you know. Don't worry about the other ones, okay? If you have any questions, feel free to leave a question in the Google Classroom. All of you new students, new 4th graders, welcome. I'll see you next lesson.